Right, welcome everybody to the Sprint 5 show and tell for the Future Northants Unitary website build. I haven't rehearsed this initial bit actually, so I won't waffle too much. My job here is just to explain what this last sprint has been all about, and then point you in the direction for all the people that have actually been doing the hard work. So this sprint has been slightly longer than usual. But the main aim for it has been the go live of the two new beta sites, and just to be showing you all exactly the progress so far. The reason it was slightly longer than the previous ones, of course, is Christmas. So as you can see, there's someone dragging their Christmas tree out of the house, and if it's anything like my area, just dumping it on the path outside. There must be about 100 Christmas trees in the within half a mile of my house at the moment. Obviously, yeah. So but the length of time is not not anything other to do with that. The major focus, as I say, is the impending 15th of January deadline for the launch of the beta sites, which passed on Friday. And as you can see, there was a roaring success. It's fair to say, I think that the project team, everyone pulling together, and everyone doing their sort of individual parts, but coming together as the well-oiled machine. This sounds so much cornier now I'm saying it out loud, but these pictures didn't seem quite so corny at the time. And that's definitely me doffing my cap to everybody, because I think it's been a fantastic effort, some real quality work produced by everybody. That mountain there is the looming deadline, and I think that everyone's had it in mind, what we're working to from the start, and it's always good to have that clear objective. And I think as a project team, that's been one of the most positive things I've found, is we all know where we've got to get to, and everyone's pulling together, flying in the same direction to achieve that. And then lastly, just to explain the reason for that poor little lad sat on the ball there watching everyone else have fun. At times I have felt like, from a personal perspective, just watching all these people sort of whizzing past, doing their bits, and being on the periphery a little. But again, the beauty about this team and the way we're all putting together is it's very inclusive. And even if you're not necessarily making a huge, technical contribution or seemingly doing a lot of the work involved, everyone's involved, and all input is valued, which is great. I think that's about it from me now on this particular slide. So these show and tell sessions, for anyone that's not been viewing these before, they are for us to show our progress. You show progress early and often. There are the means of getting feedback from everybody, and not just those that are involved in the day-to-day work or the week-to-week work in some cases. There to show our next steps and how people can get involved with the next stages of the project. We'd like people to know to raise your hand or use the chat at any point with your questions, feedback and ideas. Also, if you can remain on mute at all times, that'd be great. I shall definitely be quickly muting myself. So the items that we're covering today. Number one on the agenda, very important, is the private test site demo for the West and North beta. We're going to look at the team and who's behind the work and the various roles. And then Sprint 5, what else have we been up to? So there will be an update on the website content, on the debranding, accessibility, and e-forms. After that comes Sprint 6, or what are we looking to achieve during that period? And then we finish with opportunity to share your thoughts and an activity for all the participants. Thank you.
Cheers, Steve. I think that first slide held together all right with the pictures on there.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good job I saw it again on Friday. That's all I'll say.
Well done. So the next slide should show project status, the project plan. So the green box, that is our milestone, major milestone that we've just reached, January 15th. So the 2 private beta sites are ready to go. So the majority of today's show and tell will be taking a look at those sites so you can see what they actually look like. I don't know if anyone's taken their mute off. I'm hearing myself back here. I think that's better. Any screenshots that you've seen before in these previous show and tells, they would have just been screenshots and designs. So what you're going to see today is actually what's been built in the new content management system in Drupal. So it's quite exciting that these are going to be the live sites. Although they're the beta sites, by April the 1st, they will become the live site. So this is the result of lots of work by lots of this team. The devs have built these sites.
We can't hear you. Well, I can't.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I think someone else was on turned their mute off. It was reverberating back to me. Sorry, I'll pick that back up. So yeah, the 2 private beta sites have been released. That's what the majority of today is going to be about. Stephen's going to talk you through that next. Previous screenshots that you would have seen would have been just screenshots. So what you're going to see today are the actual proper sites that have been built in a content management system called Drupal. These will become the live sites. So they're the beta sites at the minute, but for April 1st, they will be the live site. So lots of work has gone into this from the devs to build this site. Steve, David are the content leads for North and West. You're going to see some real content that's been added into the site. They've been learning how to use the content management system. So I think that's a real milestone moment for the project. Obviously, the next big milestone will be April the 1st when the sites go live. But hopefully, throughout the month of March, we'll have these beta sites turned into more public sites, so we can start to share them wider for user testing with the public. And anybody else really, so we can link to them from our main site, so everyone kind of gets a feel for what these sites will look like for vesting day and what the journey will be. So I'm going to hand over to Steve now, who's going to talk about the beta sites and show you what they look like.
Hi guys, right, this is going to be a live technology demonstration, so watch it go horribly wrong. Share my screen. Yay! Right, so this is the beta Northamptonshire website. As you can see, it's the main homepage. It's the first kind of initial iteration of it. As you can see, we've started creating the departmental sections that all the content will be split down into. You might be wondering about what the order of those sections are. Essentially, it's based on a lot of analytics as to what customers want to find and what is most used. If you've ever worked in customer services at one of the borough councils, you'll know just how important bins actually are to people. So that's why it's one of the first kind of items on there. We've started putting process into place where we can order the services in alphabetical order if customers would prefer that, just to make the user journey kind of even easier. Logos in the top left hand corner. We've got an option for all services at the right corner. Feedback, as obviously this is the start of our new website, so customers will be able to feedback and help us improve it when we begin our journey from the 1st of April. Accessibility information at the bottom, contact us option at the bottom, privacy information as well. And that's essentially the kind of main homepage that we've got. We've started creating content for certain departments. Bins is an example that we've got. So if I click on bin collection, recycling and waste, that'll go into that particular department's homepage or service landing page. It's split into sections with kind of the grey headings. So bins and rubbish, street cleaning, business and commercial waste, just to try and split the information up and make it easier for the customer to navigate. If I was to click on bin collection day, This is where the information as a vesting day is still going to be split between the sovereign councils and the websites. So this kind of section will be referring to all the sovereign councils. So we've got Corby, East Northants, Kettering, Wellingborough for the north, and then obviously it'll be the other councils for sections like that in the west. You'll be able to find your local area based on your postcode. And then there's a reminder there as well that if you're not a resident, you may actually be a resident of the opposite council, just to help ease that kind of customer journey and make it make sense for people. If I were to click on Corby, we'll go straight to Corby's bin collection day information, and it's exactly the same for Kettering as well. So these types of sections are used where we're not creating brand new content on the Unitary website because the department hasn't quite unified yet, and we still need to refer back to the individual websites. I'll now show you the West Council. As you can see, it's very similar, but with the West Council's kind of theme on there with their logo, their main colour. But overall, it remains just like the North because we want to try and keep those journeys absolutely consistent and as easy as possible. If I were to look at, just try and find it. Blind, your council. Again, we've got the headings that break down the information to your Unitary Council, accessibility, cookies, privacy. And if I click on About West Northamptonshire Council, you can see this is where, oh, is it not sharing?
Not showing, you're showing a different screen now.
There we go, come back to that.
There we go.
Had to be one little problem. So we've got the information where content has actually been added on, and it's split into big heading and clear text and links. Got information on the right hand side as well. Also, potentially we've got a contact us button. So if contact us, we've got a customer being able to contact us online. They've got the call information, telephone number, and potentially if they've got compliments, comments, or complaints, they can just easily click the button, find the information they need, and go on to the contact form. So a customer can easily go on to the next page, tell us the information they'd like to talk about. Of course, it's going to be a compliment, and fill in details before submitting that information to us, and then completing the rest of the form. I'm not going to go through absolutely all of that. And that is essentially basically it. We've tried to look at making customer journeys absolutely simple as possible. So potentially this isn't actually new to you. This is exactly what was promised from the beginning. We tried to keep it consistent with what the initial vision was. And it's plain and simple. Ronseal does what it says in the tin to get the customer where it kind of needs to go. That's it from me.
Thanks, Stephen. There's a lot of comments in the chat, so keep adding any thoughts or comments in the chat, and I'll just try share my screen, and we'll come back to any comments that haven't been answered at the end of the session.
Connolly, oh, there was a hand up. It's gone down now. It's fine. Thank you.
So there's some screenshots on the left of the north and the west on the right, and the test URLs there. There's a comment that I just popped in to say that what we demonstrated was on a desktop or a laptop device. Someone else has started screen sharing. should I take back the screen share? Not sure who took back. Sorry about that.
My MacBook didn't.
No, that's okay. There we go. Getting there.
Charlotte, you've got your hand up? Would you like to ask a question?
Just checking. Can you see the website beta test sites on the screen now?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Charlotte, go ahead.
Right. I put a comment in the chat about obviously I'm in licensing, and I'm sure a lot of people have got the same question about what's happening with our individual services. How do we know? I do all the content on the website for licensing, but I haven't been approached about what content needs to stay and stuff. Do we know? How do we know who's doing that for our service?
Steve, did you want to mention, I think, what you responded in the chat in terms of the process?
Yeah, it was me. It was me responding. But Steve, you're probably well placed to respond on that. That's if fine.
I think, Julia, if you could give like an overview about
Yeah,
how
sure.
we're working with civis area, then we
Yeah,
can talk
no
about
problem. So Charlotte and anybody else, I'm sure you'll all be interested in the answer to this. So basically, we will be contacting service areas at the point in which we are sort of working to a priority as to basically what we're looking at the moment at the content for these beta sites as a priority, and then we'll start working with other service areas. So where there's a service area where the majority of content is on the beta sites, these are the ones we're working with first, and we'll contact you in due course as we get to as we sort of move through all the different areas. Our leads are Steve Miller for the North, and Steve's the one that's just given the presentation, and David Bevan for the West. So they'll all be in contact with you in due course.
Julia, I think it's worth pointing out as well that the initial sort of prioritisation process was informed by meetings and questionnaires that we had and shared with the various Future Northants project managers for the individual areas. So licensing, off the top of my head, I think that would be Andy Gratwitz. So we had a discussion with him about his various areas and made the decision from that point, knowing that obviously the future work would be to get the greater detail as we went on.
Are there any other hands, Juliet?
Guy had his hand up earlier. Guy, I don't know if you still have a question.
Kiri, well spotted. Thanks very much, and thank you for inviting me to see these. I think I know the answer to this question, and but I'll ask it anyway. Is there any proposal to put any graphics in here, or are we keeping it really, really clear? I can see why we wouldn't. The only reason why I ask is on the landing page of the North website, it looked like there was a little bit more white space at the top, sort of above the menus. And whether that's something that could be optimized. It looked like it was waiting for something to go in there, but it might not be. But I mean, overall, I think they look really good and are nice and simple.
Chris, did you want to respond?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good spot. So essentially, it may seem a bit backwards, but one of the things we're doing at the moment is leaving the landing page design until a little bit later. The reason for this is that the homepage itself will be an amalgamation of other content. So say, for example, one of the first things we did was build the ability to add in service pages. And so the first piece of content that can go on the homepage is that list of services that you can add in. The next thing we're going to be working on will be something like news, and they'll end up being a news feed on the homepage as well. And so, yes, is the answer. it's the short answer. There will be planned to be a kind of a landing page above the services, as you said, in that white space.
Cheers.
And regarding, I guess, the graphics, I think the team are working through that as they work through the formal homepage designs, and we've been in testing. If this is the first time you've joined, in previous show and tells, we've been sharing some resident and staff feedback on some of the iconography that we've been testing against each of those services. So they're still being tested. So right now, you've ultimately seen, like, I guess the test in terms of where we're at today, but these are going to dramatically change as we work through all the way up till April 1st. So I'll hand over back to Chris just to tell you more about who's behind the great work.
Yeah, so I guess this is a big thank you to everyone who has got us up to this point. So as we've shown before, this is the core project team, but we also have, as we've shown before, people coming in, people leaving throughout the process. So there's definitely some new faces and new people to thank as well, and all the people that have moved on from the team but have helped throughout the entire process. Yeah, I am now going to quickly just talk about the design side of things again. So I'm going to share my screen just to jump into the design system. Right, hopefully that's showing. Shout if you can't see anything. Oh, the stop presenting button appeared right where I was about to click. There we go. Okay,
yep.
Hope everyone can see. So I guess just to flag, if this is your first time seeing this, or even if it's not, this is the design system. So what we are doing is building the design components completely separate from the actual backend. So what we've just seen that Steve just showed us is the entire website created from all the content that's been added by the content editors, joining together with this design system. So every time they choose to add in a button, the button from this list of slices, call to action button, will be added in that place with the content that they've chosen, the link. And so getting down into the granular detail of this, obviously you have a button, but it's a button is made up of a set of properties. But this is a load of extra detail that you don't need to know. But essentially, what I wanted to quickly talk you through was alongside, obviously, that great example of all the content. I just wanted to start showing a few of the kind of deeper, smaller interactions that you may not even notice, but that are coming into the design. So there's things like obviously hover states is an important thing to know when you've hovered on something. But let's say if we jump into the service landing page, and I can open this up into a full screen tab. So this, just to reiterate, this content is just hard coded into this design system. This isn't connected to the back end at all, but it essentially looks exactly the same right now, except obviously some of the content may be different. But as I said, you've got the things like hover states. Another important thing for accessibility is the ability to tab, so to interact with the website just using your keyboard. So hold on, if I refresh this because I've clicked into it. So an example is one of the things we have is a skip to main content button. So the first time you click tab when you're on the website, you're able to click into this and it will skip your point of focus until you reach the main body of the content, skipping over the logo link, the all services, the feedback, the breadcrumbs, because the idea being that if you're looking at this, you'd have to tab through every single one of these links every time you wanted to get to the content. But yeah, so that's just a little example. So you have the ability to tab through. We also have some small interactions like a slight animation on when you're clicking to show that this thing has been clicked, although that link won't do anything. And as Steve showed, we've started to bring in things like the ability to quickly just change the order. This is all just done easily in the front end. And then the other thing is we are starting to bring in kind of optimizations for mobile. So through the user research, based on the static screens that we created, we have been adapting the designs. So say, for example, on this homepage, that list of services, it becomes a much narrower, much shorter list. So in the initial design we had, it was like this, but from the feedback, people were suggesting there was some suggestions that it was too long to kind of scroll through everything. So as an initial test, we're going to now test this out, the idea that you just get a much narrower, shorter view of the services. Another random example of this is, if we go back out, say, for example, that signposting page that we just saw. So we have the list of pages that are within the same section here on the sidebar. Obviously on mobile, this is nowhere near as important, because on mobile the screen real estate is so small that we want to just focus on the primary content. We don't have that extra space. So alternatively, we switch it out to be this drop-down menu where you can still access that content, but it's not as prevalent. And then that's everything you'll be able to see on those links that we've sent out. But I guess one thing I just wanted to flag as well is that the design part of this project needs to always be a kind of one step ahead, because we need to design and then build the functionality in the design system before it can then be pulled into the back end with the content management system. So just as a quick example, I was going to show that we, while some things aren't available yet, you won't see any of this on the current website. They will be available in the next sprint. So for example, we've built the ability to add an accordion. So this is just an example content, but this is again an accessible accordion that can display additional content. You have the ability to kind of close everything, open everything at will. An accordion can have like a summary alongside the content, and an accordion itself can have other slices within it, such as dividers, titles, buttons, and things like that. That's just an example. Again, you can kind of explore this at your will. We also have the idea of downloadable files. Again, this isn't something available yet in the content management system or available on the beta site, but these are things that will be coming next. But as I said, we need to design them we need to design and build them within the design system before we can bring them into the beta site. But yeah, that's a quick overview on that. And I'll pass you back over to Connolly, and I'll stop sharing my screen. Thanks.
Can you see the design system presentation again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I'm just checking if are there any hands up? Otherwise, I can.
No hands up. Oh yes, Amjad's got his hand up. Or was that? It's gone down now, Amjad. Is that? Yeah. No, nothing up there, Connolly.
Thank you. So I am just going to whiz through all of the things that we have been doing. So we have all been focusing on getting that initial milestone, which is having those 2 beta sites, so one for the West and one for the North. But there's a few other things that the team are tracking on using Trello. So there's a screenshot there of what our Trello board looks like and what the team are doing and what the team are have completed in Sprint 5. So we started quality assurance testing both on the front end and specifically with David and Stephen on using Drupal backend at this kind of like infancy stage. And we continued recruiting resident for this next phase of beta testing. So you'll hear all about that from Sue shortly. And we also published week notes. So Richard will talk more detail about that. You'll hear from Lucy about e-forms. We've refined accessibility, and Robert will tell you more about that. And Lawrence will tell you all about the rebranding work that was done in Sprint 5. There's been lots of information governance in terms of meetings and decisions required for the safe and legal requirement for vesting day. So even though the kind of end result is just 2 URLs of the beta sites, there's been lots and lots happening between the Thursday the 24th of December and Wednesday the 13th of January, which was when Sprint 5 was. I'm going to just quickly touch on something that we do at the end of each sprint. So the website team are working in a kind of agile way, which means we're kind of working in a time block period where we really focus in on what we need to achieve in a sprint. So sprint 5 went for 3 weeks. So when we got back, we actually revisited something we did all the way back in sprint 1, which is a user manual. So if you can imagine when you get a like a washing machine, it comes with a bit of a manual or a booklet on how best you can use the machinery. Well, as a team, we're a brand new team working across 8 different local authorities as well as Decent and FutureGov. So we pulled together a bit of a one-pager on how and what we want to achieve in the project all the way throughout the website project. And so we revisited those and we also held a one-word retro. So at the end of each sprint, we have a retrospective, which is an agile kind of ritual or ceremony where we reflect on what went well and what didn't go so well and what we can improve in the next sprint. And I just thought it'd be interesting to share these with you. So the words dot pointed on the left were from the core team, kind of reflecting on that first week of the year and yeah, proceeding to the go live date. So I'm not sure if you could also reflect on your first week coming back into 21 and if any of those resonated with you. So I thought I'd share that with you. I'll hand over to Richard now to tell us a little bit more about the Spark site.
Thanks, Connolly. So you saw at the beginning of this, Amjad's joined the team from the communications team at Future Northants. So we're working with Amjad to create a comms plan, and we're looking to really ramp up the comms messages about the whole project. So the Spark site is like a blog site. So every couple of weeks, we'll post something in this after the show and tell to really update people on what we're working on. So we'll link to this show and tell. We've recorded it. So if you want to look back at previous sessions, you can do that. And if there's things that you think we've missed out that you'd like to know, please do get in touch with us about the comms. And we'll look to put those in the show and tell and into this blog site. So any feedback, do let us know that. So I'm going to pass over now to Sue, who's going to talk about the user testing.
Hi everyone, it's Suze Dakini here. The user testing that we did in first phase, it was really good. We interviewed 12 people. We got lots of really positive feedback from what they thought about the sites, both from a mobile point of view and also from using a laptop point of view. Everyone we spoke to seemed to be really excited and really pleased to be involved. We did a call to action which Richard put on the Northamptonshire County Council website just before Christmas, and a fantastic 140 residents who said they'd like to be involved, which was really good. We've also engaged and reached out to lots of other communities, so the voluntary impact sector, lots of students, and lots of wider demographics to make sure that we touch everyone who is living within our county. This beta trial, which we actually have our first interview tomorrow, is going to be massive for us to actually show Pony what these new websites are like. I mean, they're really exciting, and having been sort of involved along the way, to actually see them turn into reality is just amazing. And so I'm hoping that, you know, the users that we have got are going to be really keen to give us feedback. And as I said, we had 140 people who responded and said, yeah, we'd love to get involved. However, I don't know if they're stage shy or what, but in actual fact, actually putting it into reality is not happening as fast as we'd like. So myself and Fiona are really busily trying to contact people. So if anybody has anyone that they think would really want to help and get involved with this and either haven't seen the website, then please let us know so we can actually get them booked in, because we're running it from tomorrow until the end of January. And that's it from me. I'll hand back to you, Connolly.
And Hello, everyone. This is Ale. Quickly, why do we do user testing? So this is what we've been doing in the last months. And when we do a user testing session, we actually give tasks to people. So like one of the tasks we've been asking people to complete in the last months was imagine you want to file a complaint. So we will share with them the link to the prototype. This is the old prototype. And they would go through, like, first of all, they would try to think about, okay, I need to file a complaint. I'm going to contact the council and then give feedback and then complain and then fill in the form. Next slide, please. And what happens next? We write up like the insights and spot patterns. And like the example here, step 2 insight sharing is an example where I wrote up like what were the insights from the last round of interviews at the end of December. And you can see like there's a bit about the complaints journey, and we have been prioritizing, and we have decided which of these insights is actually the most relevant to include in the next round of iteration to influence design and development. So in this case, the overall journey was perceived as there are a number of things that didn't work fine for all the people. For some of them, it was absolutely fine. For some others, it wasn't. So one of the things was that there was some confusion because at the beginning of the journey, there were mentioned other ways to file complaints about specific service area, and then you could step into the form that wasn't clear. People shared that they wanted to share their personal details first. They wanted to indicate the department of the service the complaint was about, and once submitted, they wanted to see a receipt with reference number, the summary of the complaint, and the time frame to hear back from the service area. So we have been going through this and working with design and development and working with content design as well. We've been reviewing the whole journey so that now this journey is much sleeker. There are less clicks to get to the point. The form is designed in a way that takes in consideration everything the participants said. So overall, why do we do user testing? Once again, to design experience that works for people and to gather insights to inform design and development. So more to come from this way as we're going to be starting phase 2, as you said, tomorrow. I think next to Steve, I reckon.
Hello. Yes. Well, as you've already seen by the demonstration, we have started getting a lot of test content on the website, as well as a little bit of approved content, for example, about Contact Us and about the council itself. We've been finding that the content management system works really well with no issues, so we can easily edit the homepage, all the service landing pages for the departments, and the information pages as well. David and I have been working on that. And now that we've reached this kind of stage going forward, it's now all about meeting all these different service areas and going over kind of more in depth about what their requirements are in terms of their content. Next slide, Connolly. There's kind of a risk there that potentially we might not get all the content that we need for vesting day. So we're really going to be driving forward, talking to other departments to make sure we get that information that we need. So we're putting into place meetings with them. Before these meetings, we're essentially going over existing content to find out what potentially will need to be transferred or updated. And then we're having that in-depth meeting with the service to confirm what items need to go on the unitary site versus what items need to link back to the old sovereign websites. This kind of gives us an opportunity to discuss any missed content and just give them a tight deadline so we can collaborate with them and help them get that content online. And also discuss with them the customer journey and what the customer needs to get out of visiting their areas, kind of content, and making sure that it matches the Disney question. Next slide. It's probably worth going over this again. It's recently we've kind of come to an agreement about this, but people might have questions around it still. and it's in regards to transferring content over from the Sovereign to the Unitary website. So this is where, for example, council tax will have unified policies and information, and we need to put it on the Unitary site. Well, what happens to the existing websites for the borough councils in that particular instance? So our kind of process is that every time we create a page on the Unitary website, we refer to the Sovereign website owners and ask them to put a redirect. So when a customer clicks on a particular page on the old Sovereign websites, it refers and transfers them over to the Unitary website straight away. So the website owners will create and draft that page and then lock it down so other people can't edit it until April. Then when it comes to the 1st of April, the website owners will approve all of these changes, and the redirects will then go live straight away. And that just means that if you think about it, on the 31st of March, all this old content needs to be live and available to access by a customer on the 31st of March. And on the 1st of April, we've somehow got to find a simple process to transfer them over to the Unitary website instead. So this was the kind of process that we came up with, just to simplify that workload and stop us creating a lot of workload at the very last second. We're planning on keeping those pages with the redirects live for a couple of months, because when you've got your Sovereign websites with a search function, so Google search, for example, is used at Kettering. If a customer searches council tax payments and then clicks on that search result, we want that to work for a little while longer, but the redirect will still work and go to the Unitary website before we finally switch off the page in 2 months' time. That's it really from our end.
Hello everyone. So I'm going to give you the updates of what we've done since the last show and tell. So we've had a lot of discussions and considerations, and Juliet consulted the communications and marketing team for approval and some questions that we had. So since last time, the header has changed slightly. So we added a link to each of the corresponding new Unitary website at the top. Then we use the corresponding color so that we introduce people to the new theme of their home Unitary. And we change the website titles so that they can refer more meaningfully to the area as opposed to the council. Then the footer final conclusion was taking off all the reference to the Sovereign councils because they won't exist, and any kind of address for office blocks or places that people can visit, and yeah, that includes also the copyright message, which refers to the Sovereign site, Sovereign Council. So I'll show you the examples. So that's Corby. That's how it looks at the moment. These are mock-ups, so the in the process of being implemented. But these are just like still images of what is going to be implemented. So Corby looks like that. East Northamptonshire. You notice the color of the name East Northamptonshire is the same as the North theme color, and the link at the top there. Then if you look at the next one, yeah, Daventry area, so well, using blue for the West Unitary. The next one, Kettering area, yeah, for green for the North. And the next one is the Northampton Borough, is Northampton area, with a link to the Unitary at the top. And South Northamptonshire, and lastly we've got Wellingborough. So that's how they are at the moment. This is probably not the very final one, but any kind of changes or tweaking will not affect the overall design or look and feel. When it comes to NCC, because we could not put two links at the top. So if someone clicks on the Duo logo, the Duo brand, they will be sent to not on the mock-up, so it will be on the next slide, but the name has changed to services for North and West, because that's more meaningful. After playing around with so many different names of how to call the site title, yeah, that was the last most favorable one. So on this page, we'll have information. So this is the content area. We'll explain what's happening and direct people to either of the unitary sites. So that's how things are at the moment. Just waiting for implementation, ready for 1st of April.
Yep, a quick update on accessibility from me. LGSS L&D are beginning production of an accessibility training module. Once this is completed and signed off, it will be mandatory for all content editors to complete. Our online accessibility partner will be producing their first automated accessibility reports for the beta sites tomorrow, hopefully, and that should highlight any major issues that crop up with the initial build of the websites. And we're currently awaiting a response from the Shore Trust about their availability to manually check for issues that cannot be picked up by automated testing. The accessibility statements, they've been updated a little bit from last time. There are links on there to the new statements as they stand at the moment, and there are draft versions of the accessibility statements on the new beta sites, and these will be constantly monitored and updated over the forthcoming months with any issues that crop up during the website creation. I'll hand you over to yeah, I've forgotten who it is.
Lucy.
Lucy, sorry Lucy.
Right, thanks Rob. Yeah, so from an eForms perspective, my role within the project team is to focus mainly on the NCC forms and preparing them for the 1st of April. So at present we have over 250 online NCC forms, and we've just been working on a plan of, the changes that we need to make to the forms for vesting day. We've kind of solidified that plan now, and it's just working out assigning resources and things like that to the project work. So for vesting day, the plan is to duplicate all of our payment forms. So that's around 40 out of the 250 forms that we've got. The reason why we're duplicating them is to do with obviously the money and where that needs to go. We had conversations around putting some sort of technology in the form so that it would pick up whether it's a North or a West payment and then divvy the money out that way. But instead, I think the easiest route for this would be to just duplicate the forms. So that's the plan for those. And then we'll be duplicating any forms linked to MVP content. Just also by duplicate, I mean having one form for the North and one form for the West. So yeah, duplicating any forms linked with MVP content. So for example, registrations we know is going to be part of the content for the new MVP sites from the 1st of April. So an online form we have there is ordering a registrar's copy certificate. So we know we need to split that for one form for the North and one form for the West. And then finally, so the remaining forms, which is probably still over about 150, we'll be making minor amendments to those and keeping them as singular forms. I can think of, education forms, things like that. They'll have minor changes to things like data protection notifications or messages, perhaps email notifications direct into the service area, but we won't be duplicating and having one form for North and West for those. Another point that we've been working on is, so as you've seen from the user testing slides, we've created the new Have Your Say form. So for compliments, comments and complaints, there's 2 screenshots there, and Stephen's obviously gone through one of them. So they've been created, and obviously we're iteratively improving them based on the user testing comments that come through. Another big thing that we're working on at the minute is obviously communicating to the NCC service areas about the form changes that we'll be making for the 1st of April, and therefore how they'll have to access the data from the 1st of April for those forms. So I'll show you in a couple of later slides, but just a quick overview of how the data will be accessed. And then just on district and borough forms, we're keeping, I guess, an eye on the amendments, but the amendments for those forms will be under the responsibility of the service areas within the district and boroughs, just because of the difference in situation between the NCC forms. Obviously, they'll be splitting over 2 new authorities, whereas district and boroughs don't have a higher need for change. Next slide, please. So this kind of ties in with the communication we're making to the NCC service areas, just very brief user use case diagrams is what we've created to try and clearly get the message across of how their data can be accessed from the 1st of April. So this use case describes how the data will be accessed for any MVP linked forms and NCC payment forms. So as I mentioned earlier, those forms will be duplicated, so there'll be one for North Northants and one for West Northants. So as you can see there, a North customer might complete and submit an NNC online form. The data is then received into the back office, and then a North back office staff member will be able to access that data as they normally would, but obviously with some service areas, if perhaps one team is dealing with both North and West, they'll have to go into 2 different back offices. That's basically the example that we're trying to get across, or the reasoning. Next slide, please. And then this use case diagram kind of shows how the data will be accessed for NCC forms that aren't splitting. So obviously a West customer and a North customer complete the same form. The data goes into the same back office, and then a West or a North team member will then have to go into the back office, that one same, and download as appropriate. And then next slide, we've just created another one as well for district and borough forms, just so that we've got all sort of areas covered. So yeah, a West or a North customer might be completing a district or borough online form, very similar in that the form is delivered. A lot of the online form systems for district and boroughs we've worked out are normally connected into a CRM back office or something like that. So we've mentioned there that the form is delivered to the relevant back office system, and then the North or the West staff member will then go into that data and review as appropriate. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with the online forms work at the minute. I'll now pass on to Connolly.
Thanks, Lucy. Before I talk about Sprint 6, are there any hands or questions or comments in the chat that we should bring up now, or we can hold it till later?
Hi, Connolly.
Hello.
Hey, I just asked a question to Rob, Robert Walker, I believe it was. I don't know if he saw it or not, but basically I just wanted to know if we knew roughly when the training module for accessibility will be rolled out.
They've only just started it. It's going to take them about at least a month to do it. We've then got to go through it and sign it off. So I can't see it being ready for actual rollout until towards the end of February. I wouldn't have thought.
Okay, thanks for that, Robert. It just gives me if even if I have a rough time scale, that's really useful to know. So thank you for that.
Okay, cheers.
Great. If there are no other pressing comments or hands up, here's a bit of an insight into what we're going to do next in the next 10 days or in the next sprint, which is Sprint 6. So quite a lot's happening, lots to do with the beta and making updates. So the content team are basically going to continue to discuss content for vesting day across all the different services. So expect meetings to be in your diaries if there hasn't been then, all the way up until March. Information governance, some decisions still being discussed there for vesting day, and then refinement of the Drupal content in the CMS by David and Stephen. In terms of user testing, the resident research phase 2 with Ale, Sue and Fiona and Robert are going to be attending some of the sessions. We'll continue some quality assurance testing or QA testing, and we're going to start with the product owners doing some user acceptance testing of the beta sites to make sure everything's working as expected. In terms of design and build, the next features we're going to prioritize are the news page, so that being the kind of news listing template, as well as the article pages. And also we're going to touch on the search. I believe we're going to have a few meetings with Kevin and his team about postcode and cookie requirements, and just roughly project management, Juliet and I keeping in touch of all things that are happening. So in the next show and tell, I think is on Thursday the 28th. If you can make it, we'd love to see you, and then you'll find out all about what we've done in Sprint 6. In terms of if this is your first, I guess, time joining the show and tell, we are working in Agile, but it's always good to kind of know what's coming. We know we have a hard deadline of April 1st to have the 2 websites be live websites. So this is just an indicative kind of sprint goal in terms of what we're aiming to achieve all the way up until April 1st. So you can see we're working in kind of 2-week sprints, and there's an example of what we think when we looked at the information we had at the time, what we think we'll be able to achieve all the way to April 1. So I'm going to hand over to Kiri to tell us a little bit more about the activity that we're going to do with you today.
Just realised I was on mute. Hello everyone again. So it's time for you to get involved now. We would like to know what you think. So there is a link there. I've just put it in the chat as well, along with the code, which you can copy and paste. Really, we want to know just one word that, sorry, next slide, please, Conley. Unless I can share my screen and actually go to the link, that might be better. Oh yeah, she's on it. She's on it. Yeah, one word that you'd use to describe the test sites that you've seen today. So it's anonymous, so you can tell us exactly what you really feel. You can give us some ammunition, tell us what you think needs to be better, or tell us what's amazing. And if lots of you say the same thing, then it might even be the truth. So we'll, yeah, we've got 4 people quick off the mark. Just the first thing that comes to mind, you don't have to labour too much over it. But yeah, just, oh, up to 7. Here we go. We've got some answers coming in, thank you. Awesome, clean, impressive, clear, wow, simple, basic, easy, friendly, concise, beta. It's all pretty positive words, thank you. Another simple, well, elegantly simple. Yes, minimal design, but clear and easy to read. Friendly. Real now, that's an interesting one. I wonder what was behind that. I don't know if anyone who wrote that wants to give us a bit more info about what you meant, if you're brave enough. Progress. Yes, go for it.
I think for me, it just means it's becoming real. It is, you know, it's 2 months away, and it's happening. It's here, and I would like to think that our residents and customers will think that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that, Sue. It exists. It is here and now, and yeah, we're making it happen. Well, the team. Kudos to the team for making it happen. Fantastic. Okay, well, we're on 17. If there anyone else wants to contribute, it's really, really valuable for us to know how it's landing, and to give well, not just to give our design developers a little pat on the back that they're heading in the right direction, but also to know kind of what the feedback is. So do add some comments if you have any. If not, thank you very much. I love that. Great relief next to each other. Good foundation. Yeah. We've got Con Marie. Is that? That's the only other one I'm not sure on. Is that you, Conley?
It's me. Sorry. Marie Con is a Japanese designer who is a minimalist. So she just like decides anything that's not useful, take it away, and just leave a very clean look. So that's sorry. Yeah.
Got you.
Marie Kondo.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you.
It does seem to be a theme, the elegant, clear, simple look. Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. I will pass back to Connolly to say a final few words.
Thanks, Kiri. This is going to be open, so if you've got any other words, I think it's meant to be one word, just like we did with our retro, and I mentioned before, we had a one-word retro. This is kind of like a one-word feedback session, but we do have people eagerly keen to hear more about what you think. So I'll just share, if you can see the questions, if I can present that again. So if you've got any thoughts or comments, concerns, insights, if you just email customer@northamptonshire.gov.au. You can address it either to Juliet, who's the Future Northants project manager, or Richard, who's the website team product owner for both the West and North. Please feel free to share any thoughts on that email address. However, we've got another 15 minutes that we allocated for kind of discussion. If you need to dash, thank you so much for joining us. And if you'd like to stay on, I'll stop sharing my screen and we can potentially stop the recording and just have a discussion with anyone who'd like to ask any specific questions. Thank you so much for your time.